girls, so welcome back to the other case that I was supposed to cover last week. I'm having to upload it this week because again I was very busy. This case is actually very unique because the body has never been found, but our believed killer is believed to be charged with murder, considering there's more than enough evidence to prove that our alleged victim is no longer with us. So of course, with that being said, I'm gonna quit my rambling, give what is publicly known, and let's get started.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares. See me right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
So start off with Virginia. Virginia Lynn was born on July 18th, 1951. So she's like in her early 70s, like 72 right now. She's still alive, and she's like 72. So it doesn't say when or even how old she is, but eventually she would marry a man named Edward Claubeau, and they would have a daughter together by the name of Carolyn. And he was a janitor at Sykesville Middle School at the time. So, of course, Virginia and Edward eventually ended up splitting in 1973. And then on November 21st, 1974, Edward would sadly take his own life by hanging in the middle school gym of the middle school that he worked at. So then in that same year, she winds up marrying a man named Floyd Fogel. Apparently, she was babysitting his kids, and the two got along pretty well. And so then, of course, they start dating. So then they're married for a while. So they're married from 1974 until Floyd has his heart attack and he dies in 1990. So now Virginia is technically a widow to like two different men at this point. So then in 1998, she meets and marries her third husband, Thomas Hayden Sr. And so he was born in Leonardtown, Maryland. I didn't find an exact date on that. He would meet his first wife in Gonzales, Louisiana, while he was working at a gas station. Thomas would, of course, volunteer for the fire department and then later became a police officer. Together, Thomas and his first wife have Kim together. So, Kim is technically Virginia's stepdaughter, pretty much, just to make it clear. So then he moves the family, so his wife at the time, Kim, and him, they all moved to Woodbridge, Virginia, where apparently he's working for a milling company until he injures his back and this obviously needs surgery, so now he's out of work. So now, of course, since Thomas can't work, he goes on disability. They move back to Louisiana. Him and the first wife, who is unnamed, that's why I refer to her as the first wife, they divorced when Kim's like 18, and he moves to Maryland, and this is where he meets Virginia. So this is where they come together. So in 2009, things take a turn. When Paul Hayden, which apparently was Thomas's older brother, died in a car wreck. Apparently he was a nurse working in a hospital, and he was giving like medication to inmates, and he had drove home and he was killed by a drunk driver. Kim, of course, this being her uncle, she is posting like tributes on Facebook, as one does when you lose a loved one. She starts getting like all these hate comments like pretty much immediately, and this is because apparently at one point Paul was like a Catholic priest, and he along with several others allegedly were over violating several young boys, and so we never know if that's apparently true because he never confessed nor denied the assaults, but he did serve jail time. We don't know how much jail time, but he did serve jail time. And then Kim would defend her uncle, saying that he did serve his debt to society. Regardless of whether he did at least serve jail time. And it's believed that these comments came from Virginia, hence why I'm telling you this. So then Kim would eventually receive a brown envelope from the post office with a return address being a postal office box, so not an actual physical address, but a box you get a like little post office that you pay for. And so apparently in this mail that she got were some photos of one of her grandmothers. It said maternal grandmother, so I guess like Thomas's grandmother and some other stuff that Thomas apparently wanted her to have, and she claims it's the last time she ever even heard from her dad. So then on October 4th, 2011, Virginia went and bought a .357 caliber gun. Shortly after that, she has concrete like slabbed in the back of the porch, And people started making rumors around that though a body was buried under there. So not specifically Thomas, just a body in general, because it seemed kind of weird. And so of course a search would later be done like years later, and there was no evidence ever proving there was a body there. So Kim, of course, being concerned about her father, she calls the number. Virginia picks up, and Virginia would claim that Thomas said that he didn't want to talk to her and that she was a greedy little bitch, even though Kim would say that I never asked him for anything. And she even said, look, I'm willing to come to Pennsylvania if that's what it takes to talk to him. So on November 4, 2013, Thomas sold his part of the condo. So I guess Thomas had one part and Virginia had another. Thomas sold his part of the condo to Virginia for $1. Like just $1. And then Connie, which is Virginia's daughter, she notarized it. And then exactly a year later, the two sold together for like $135. So then on December 13th, 2014, Thomas's father, he dies. Of course, obviously there's a funeral. Thomas does not show up. And at this point, Kim says that she knows that her father is deceased. And so in 2016, because I guess Kim had pretty much had kids of her own by this point, Kim and her family went to go to Maryland to visit Thomas. And then, of course, a family friend would tell them that Thomas is dead. Kim, of course, like flew back, I guess, without verifying whether her dad was dead. And then she got back and she apparently had a message on the phone left from Virginia that said her dad was wondering, why are you spreading lies around town about him? So then, of course, she tries to contact him through Facebook. Because remember, Facebook is a thing. It's like the 2010s. So yeah, she contacted through Facebook after her son is born to let you know, like, hey, you're a granddad, you want to be your grandson's life. Because, you know, typically, as soon as you mention they a grandparent, you know, it's like they all in. He doesn't respond. Instead, Carolyn messages her, even though they weren't even close, and I don't think she even liked Carolyn, so she pretty much told Carolyn, like, hey, leave me alone. So on January 18th, Thomas's scalp would actually be found in a food saver sealed sealed bag on the side of the road. And so apparently DNA samples from this scalp were put into a database. Of course, never forgot who this is. And there were no matches originally, but later testing would show that it was in fact Thomas. So then 3 days later, on January 21st, Kim would finally report Thomas missing after all these years. And of course a welfare check was done, because this is an elderly man. So obviously the elderly, you know, they're pretty vulnerable. So they go over to the house where Thomas apparently is on record for like last known location. Last residing address, if that's what we call it. So he goes there, Virginia and the granddaughter's there, and they're saying, look, we ain't seen him in like 7 years. So then they go to the previous address, you know, the condo that they had sold for $135,000. They go to that address, and the person that's living there currently tells them that, look, Virginia told me that Thomas was dead. So then he also likes to add in, like, hey, a queen-size bed and a rubber mat for the floor is supposed to come with this condo. Neither one came with. They found the deed. I don't know if they were given the deed or they just found it, but they said they got the deed, and that was when they discovered that Virginia had forged Thomas' signature. So then this course, Virginia's looking hella suspicious, so they question Virginia, and she says, look, he left Pennsylvania to go get treatment for ALS, and then, which is like ALS, she would say, hey, he went to Mexico to get this treatment. They check his medical records, and of course there's no mention of ALS like anywhere. So police go check with the Department of Homeland Security, and they find out that Thomas nor Virginia had moved to Mexico, so already cross it out because you know that part. So now we know Virginia's lying. So in July of 2017, they find his passport, his driver's license, and apparently, I think, like a social security card. And then they find a planner that Virginia apparently had for 2011, so six years at this point. 6 years ago at that point, and it said on November 1st that Tom left for Mexico. She put in the planner. And then apparently they also had a food saver system. Remember, his scalp was found in a food saver sealed bag. And after this, they found out that she bought a gun. So, of course, they're trying to figure out, like, where's this gun at? She said she sold it to a drug dealer. Gun records prove that she didn't. So, Carolyn and Virginia's grandson, so I'm assuming this is Virginia's kid. Sorry, this is Carolyn's kid, because she only has, like, 2 kids. Her and, like, one of the grandsons was like, look, she told us that if you want to dispose of a body, get a pig, because the pigs eat everything but the hair. If you want, like, practically the evidence, like, gone just like that, get some pigs. And so to add on that, she also told them, apparently, that you have to stick a knife in someone's body, and apparently keep the knife in the body when you put them in a body of water, so that way they don't float back up. Because if they float back up, then they obviously start investigating, and that's where you get caught, especially if you're, like, close to the person you killed. And then on top of that, she even added that if the person has cardiac issues, so heart issues, you can make it you could give them an overdose, so pretty much kill them, but make it like a heart attack, so it's natural causes, so then it's like case closed. So then on July 11th, she's telling police that she recently had talked to Thomas, but she couldn't remember like when it was or even what they talked about. And she was telling people that he had a post box office, like okay, the box at the post office that you pay extra for, that box, she would claim that he had it, but it wasn't even in his name, it was in her name, and she had 3 other people added to it. Who those 3 other people was, it didn't say. So then, of course, Connie, remember she notarized his deed, even though obviously he did not, Thomas didn't actually sign it, her mom, Virginia, did. So she got charged with notarizing a falsified deed. She was tampering public records on top of 2 counts of conspiracy and only got 4 years probation. From 2011 to 2017, it is believed that Virginia stole $113,471 from Social Security from Thomas. Because remember, he's unemployed, he's getting disability, they don't know he's dead. Obviously, once you dead, they stop sending checks. Because what's the point of sending checks if you dead, right? So she's been getting these checks while this man is more than likely no longer with us. So then, of course, she gets charged with 66 counts, including first-degree murder. As part of her plea deal, she decides she's going to, like, not admit guilt, but still accept whatever sentence she gets. So the murder charge went from first degree, which is obviously the most serious, to, like, third degree, which is, like, the least serious. And so her sentence is, like, 6 to 20 years concurrently. So apparently they're, like, different charges, but serve all those different charges, like, together. So that's, like, they all count together. And then after she gets out, if she's still alive, she would serve, like, 7 years probation for pretty much the rest of her days. And then she would have got a shorter sentence had she told what the body was. But I guess she decided not to. And apparently she had credit for 1,227 days. Obviously that got credit to her sentence, so she could be out in as little as about 4 years. And this is an article from, like, last year. So I guess, like, 3 years now. Plus the 7 years probation. So, apparently, if you search up this case in public record, even though, again, this is public record, they're not updating anything. So she gets out, she get out. And we won't even know. But she's, like, in her mid-70s, so, like, what could she do? You know? And yeah, so to this day, Thomas's body, 12 years later, has still never been found. Obviously, we pretty much believe that Thomas is dead because, you know, we found his skull, like his literal scalp. So, like, the man has to be obviously deceased. So, anyway, with that being said, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think of, while this case technically is solved, again, there is no body, and I do truly hate that for the family. If you have any idea on where Thomas's body could possibly be, even though this a dozen years had technically passed, I'm definitely down to hear it. Let me know your thoughts on the case. Do you have any more like this, where like a murder was, like a person believed to committed murder was caught, was sentenced and everything, even though there's no body? Definitely let me know. And I'll see you films next time.